Yes, welcome back everybody to Altcoin Daily, where you subscribe for one video per day demystifying this cryptocurrency market. My name's Austin. Breaking news as of this morning, the European Union Parliament has just voted to impose KYC on private crypto wallets. Another way to say this would be all crypto wallets, regular crypto wallets. In today's video, I want to explain exactly what this means to you, why this is disgusting, why this is unfair compared to how they treat every other sector of the financial system. They're treating crypto differently. I also want to share with you a few pieces of altcoin news that you need to know as an investor. So like always, check the timestamps down below, and let's jump in, starting with the EU. The EU Parliament has voted today to impose new regulatory measures that would essentially prohibit anonymous cryptocurrency transactions. The Econ and Lib-E committees voted to approve a proposal that would require cryptocurrency service providers, such as exchanges, to collect personally identifiable information from individuals who transact more than just 1,000 euros using so-called unhosted cryptocurrency wallets. And already, I just need to push back on this language. Notice how they're framing this discussion in the cryptocurrency space, unhosted crypto wallets, i.e., regular wallets. Unhosted wallets refers to non-custodial wallets which do not rely on third parties. Examples of non-custodial wallets include MetaMask, Wallet Connect, or hardware wallets like Ledger and Trezor. So basically all regular wallets that people already use globally, they refer to as unhosted. That's incorrect. I host it. You host it. It's self-sovereignty. I control my funds. I actually hold my coins if I have the private keys. That's the revolution with crypto. Yet when they use this language, it makes people that aren't necessarily that in tune with the space, which is the majority of the world, it makes people think, oh, that's lacking. Oh, it needs a host. It needs some custodial third party to validate it and hold the coins. Always pay attention to the framing / the language. But anyway, I digress. Let's keep moving. The EU Parliament voted on this today. What was the outcome of that vote? Though votes on several amendments were tight, the final draft was overwhelmingly approved. So it passed. It's going through. Yet it has not been adopted yet. In order for the legislation to be officially adopted, it must first go through tripartite meetings, meaning three-part meetings, I believe, between the EU Parliament, European Commission, and European Council. Nonetheless, that process is not expected to derail that legislation. So clearly a darker day for crypto. And by the way, on this channel, we'll always share with you both the bullish and bearish news in this space, so you have all the information so you can make the best decision for you. And let me just clear up why I find this disgusting. And actually, Brian Armstrong really explained this perfectly. Brian Armstrong, CEO of US-based crypto exchange Coinbase, tweeted that the proposal is anti-innovation, anti-privacy, and anti-law enforcement, arguing that it holds cryptocurrency to a different standard than fiat. Here was that exact tweet explaining what this regulation means. This means before you can send or receive crypto from a self-hosted wallet, meaning any wallet, Coinbase will be required to collect, store, and verify information on the other party, which is not our customer, before the transfer is allowed. Moreover, anytime you receive 1,000 euros or more in crypto from a self-hosted wallet, Coinbase will be required to report you to the authorities. This applies even if there's no indication of suspicious activity. Imagine if the EU required your bank to report you to the authorities every time you paid your rent, merely because the transaction was over 1,000 euros. So that is the news. Please give me your thoughts on this down below. And keep in mind that although the votes are in, this has been approved. This has not gone into effect yet. So as I get more info, I will keep you updated. Next piece of altcoin news on Terra Luna. Terra founder reveals what will happen to UST, their algorithmic stablecoin, if the Bitcoin price crashes. And as you know, Terra Luna has been one of the biggest buyers of Bitcoin in these recent months, now holding over $1 billion worth of BTC and planning on buying a total of $3 billion in Bitcoin in the future. Of course, all this is to act as a reserve for their UST stablecoin. So the CEO is on record today. What happens to both parties if BTC crashes? Terraform Labs CEO Do Kwon has conceded that a crash in the price of Bitcoin would be negative for the stability of the UST stablecoin, but that he expects Bitcoin to go up. Kwon made the comments in an interview on the Unchained podcast on March 29th. Host Laura Shin asked Kwon what the short-term implications of holding so much BTC will be for the stability of UST. In a direct quote, Kwon said the worst case scenario would be if we were buying Bitcoin and then a crash happened 6 months later, and it's correlated with a massive fall in demand for UST, which would be, as he modestly put it, negative. However, that scenario isn't keeping him up at night. I'm sort of betting that the long-term scenario of Bitcoin going up and the reserves being strong enough to withstand UST demand drops is the more likely scenario. All right. Does not give me that much confidence of having my money in this stablecoin if the markets tank. Obviously, everything's going to be just fine if Bitcoin keeps going up. But it's a very interesting experiment that's happening here. By the way, just looking at Bitcoin, this is great for the Bitcoin price because they're taking BTC off the market, putting it in the reserves. This is just a big experiment for that stablecoin. But one more thing I want to share with you involving Terra Luna and his interview on the Unchained podcast. According to Do Kwon, Terra Luna is a layer 2 solution for BTC where Bitcoin only needs to be good at being one thing, being an asset. What do you think? Will Terra be the layer 2 for Bitcoin? Listen to this 90-second clip from the Unchained podcast. Watch this.
There's a lot that has been said comparing Bitcoin to Ethereum and then thinking about what's going to be more valuable long term. And then the idea is that Ethereum is more useful. There's more things that you can do with it. So eventually it's going to flip Bitcoin. So a lot of people think this way. But I think precisely what gives Bitcoin its value is the fact that it's calcified and it's very slow to change to innovation, right? Similar to how, but like if you look at Ethereum, right, it changes less quickly than some of the other smart contract platforms, but it still changes all the time, right? And it's newer. It doesn't really have the same founding myth. It doesn't have, the same Lindy effect that Bitcoin does. So it's significantly a less credibly neutral asset, right? So I think from that perspective, there's a large and huge Bitcoin community that respects that value system, understands, the credible neutralness of the Bitcoin as an asset class. But what has been lacking is sort of a credible layer 2, if you think about it, because Bitcoin is still very difficult to use, still very difficult to weave into smart contracts. And in Terra, it gets that. Not only does Bitcoin become a reserve currency for Terra USD, right? But it also gets a layer 2 on which it can be bridged and used across a multitude of different applications spanning from, let's say, other DAOs that are building on Terra to NFTs to DeFi. And I think the possibilities of that are quite interesting because now Bitcoin only needs to be really good at being one thing, being an asset. And in terms of all the expressivity, the transaction capabilities, the throughput, all those things can happen on Terra.
All right. Very interesting perspective for Terra Luna, but let's keep moving. Next piece of quick lower cap altcoin news for Fear. And as a reminder, Fear is Horror's leading blockchain entertainment and metaverse platform with many immersive games coming in 2022. So Fear is a horror metaverse / play-to-earn horror space, and we are seeing a strong lift up on Fear, and here's why. The Fear team is preparing for a big quarter, with 2 new games coming in Q2, an SDK to on-ramp mainstream games, as well as their horror genre dedicated metaverse being released, with their Blood ecosystem token drop as well. So if you're into metaverses, if you're into the horror genre, this is going to be a big Q2 for Fear, and it's nice to see them getting some shoutouts. Anyway, that is the video. My name's Austin. Like always, see you tomorrow. And just as a reminder, pretty much all of next week, Aaron and I will be at Bitcoin Miami 2022, the biggest Bitcoin conference of the year. So expect interviews. Every single day, dropping a new interview with a different person. And by the way, also not too late to get your ticket for this conference. Use code ALTCOINDAILY for a discount. Link details down below. But see you tomorrow.